Hi, and welcome to Extra Serving, an award-winning podcast by Nation's Restaurant News. I'm your host, Holly Petre. Today on the pod, we're going to be talking about the acquisition of Tokyo Joe's, Taco Bell's latest menu item, and we're going to give you a synopsis of Create, the future of food service. On Takeaway with Sam Oches, Sam spoke with several members of the restaurant community on what it's like to be an operator at Create. Listen to the episode to hear more, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to check out First Bite, our daily morning podcast where I dissect the top news of the day alongside an NRN editor. And now it's time to introduce my co-host.
I am Sam Oches, Editor-in-Chief of Nation's Restaurant News.
And it's just the two of us today.
It's just the two of us. Leanne did the smart thing and took the day off post-Create, which is exactly what I should have done. And
I thought you were going to start singing.
I should have not looked at my email. I should have taken the day off, gone on vacation, said goodbye to the industry for a few days, come back on Monday, recharge. I did not do that, and I'm regretting it.
Gone to a little cabin in the woods, just like, are there woods in Ohio?
I don't even know how to answer that. How do you answer that question? Do you think Ohio is all cornfields?
Kinda.
Do you ever get out of New York? Except for Denver and wherever else you fly to for work? Are there woods in Ohio? I don't even know what to do with that.
Is it like a woody state? Like, do they have like parks and stuff? I don't know.
Yeah. I grew up on 25 acres of rolling hills with woods. Yeah. It's a very lovely state in parts of it. It gets a bad rap because everybody thinks it's all cornfields, but that's just the northern half. The southern half's quite beautiful.
Interesting. See, look, I'm learning all this new stuff today.
I'm an Appalachian. I grew up technically in the Appalachians because the Appalachians sort of extend into Ohio. It's very lovely. So shout out to the Hocking Hills in southern Ohio. That's where we go if we want to go to a cabin in the woods. It's a very beautiful part of the state.
So you should have gone to the Hocking Hills?
Hocking Hills. I should have, yes. We just were there for Labor Day, though, so couldn't come up with an excuse to go there twice in 1 month.
That's upsetting. You should have gone twice in 1 month and just done it. Or do you have like festival, not a festival, a state fair? You should have gone to like a state fair.
Well, yes, we do have a state fair. I think it's in October. I don't know. Why should I have gone to a state fair? Do you know what state fairs are? Yes,
we used to go to the Vermont State Fair every year growing up.
Oh, okay. Those don't just magically happen when you want them to. You know that, right? That's not like a vacation you can take.
Sometimes you can hope. Our state fair used to happen over Labor Day every year. That's when we used to go, was over Labor Day as the Vermont State Fair happens.
Okay. I don't like state fairs because it's too many people. I'm pretty, I don't like the crowds. It makes me feel claustrophobic.
Well, so how do you handle the NRA show?
I don't know. I just kind of deal with it. I feel like at the NRA show, they're all fairly spread out, like you find pockets of just like, but it's not, people are not pressing together like they would at like a big concert. Like those kinds of things I have to have a seat at a concert. I can't do the general admission thing anymore because I don't like my body feeling squeezed into people.
That's so interesting because I picture you as like such a concert person because you're such a music person. So I always picture that you like go to all these concerts, but now I'm seeing that you sit down. You're so lame. Now I'm just like sad for you.
Well, Holly, I'm old now. You remember this. I am now old. My tastes have changed. Although I'll tell you 2 quick stories before we talk about food stuff related to this. The first one is when I was in high school, I went to this concert from this band, System of a Down. Some people listening might know them. They're heavy. They're like metal kind of band. I was really into that as a high schooler. And I just remember going to their concert, general admission, floor seats, or just floor tickets, and didn't know what to expect. Crowds all around me. And the moment the first guitar started playing, the crowd just pressed forward, and I was no longer on my feet. I was just moving with the crowd. It was one of the scariest things that ever happened. And my body did not stop moving that whole show. And then I went to Lollapalooza to see Rage Against the Machine and Radiohead. It was a great, great event. But Rage Against the Machine, same thing happened to me where there were moments I was not on my feet and I was moving from the crowd. And after those 2 experiences, I don't know if I want to do that again because I'm a little person. People might not know that. I'm not a very big person. And so when I'm in these crowds, I start to get a little scared, not going to lie. So I will take a seat and enjoy the music. Thank you very much.
Yeah, when I went to Governor's Ball in New York City, I had several experiences like that over just the one day I was there, and it was terrifying. I had to climb over a fence to get out of it.
See, and you hear, what was the concert last year when Houston, there was a rapper who had a concert. Astroworld. Yeah. And there was like 12 people died or something. I mean,
yeah.
That stuff really spooks me. So but like I go to plenty of shows. Like arena shows are the best because I go to an arena show. You can get close seats, but with a seat, and then you have to just stand there. People can't move, right? I did that for the Kendrick Lamar show a few weeks ago. Great seats, but I had a seat. That was the important thing.
Interesting. So you need a seat. Are you that way in a restaurant? Do you need to always have a seat like at a restaurant or a bar?
Not necessarily. I mean, we had many times in the last few days, in fact, where we were standing up, and I'm okay with that. I like mingling. I like moving around. In fact, I think at a restaurant, sometimes, depending on the vibe of a restaurant, the experience you're trying to create, that's very much a positive. But if you're trying to eat a meal, yeah, you got to sit down.
Oh, so you didn't appreciate when we were at Boo Boo and I was eating standing up?
Well, I wasn't eating, so I didn't really care. If you got to stand while you eat, by all means, go for it. That's you. You do you.
I didn't have to stand. It was not a have to. It was an option that Brett and I took, and we just did it.
Yeah. I know we'll get into this probably in a little bit, but we did enjoy traveling around Denver to try several new restaurants, and Boo Boo is quite good. Very unique space. It was underground.
It was very cool. We could not find it at first, but then we found it, and it was worth it.
Yeah, that was the first time I have looked on Google Maps at the dot where I'm going, walk by it, and I'm like, where is this restaurant? Finally spotted the sign pointing down some stairs. So, yeah, if you're in Colorado or if you're in Denver and you want to go to Boo Boo in Larimer Square, just let it be known it is underground.
Yes, but very cool, like cool vibes downstairs. Like it definitely has like this really cool, edgy underground kind of thing going on. Like it almost feels like it could be like in New York City, like a really cool bar in New York City. So I really liked it.
Yeah, that's not uncommon in New York. I just didn't expect it in Denver.
I didn't either, and I'm saying it was very cool.
Yeah,
I feel like we're getting to happy news early though, but I know that's bad luck for us, so I'm not going to do that.
Okay, well, let's put a pin in it. We'll save that for later.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about Tokyo Joe's.
Okay, let's do it. Also, a Denver-related story.
Look at that. So they got acquired while we were in Denver. Fun time to have news happen, as always. As when we're in Denver at Create. Is just to have news happen and acquisitions happen. But acquisitions are always big news, and we've talked about how some acquisitions have been happening recently, and it's kind of been piling up. So let's talk a little bit about what this means.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is interesting because I think this is sort of part of a trend we've seen, especially among fast casual companies, where these emerging fast casual brands start to kind of fall under one roof, right? Where you have these portfolio companies start acquiring these emerging concepts. So in this case, you have a portfolio company called Salad Collective, which started with Mad Greens, a fast casual salad joint out of Denver with about 25-ish locations. They acquired Snappy Salads recently, and Snappy Salads, about 13 location, I believe, out of Texas. And now they're acquiring Tokyo Joe's, which I think is close to 30 locations altogether between these three brands at 65 locations between Denver or Colorado, Texas, and Arizona. And it immediately made me think of Modern Market and Lemonade. I mean, Modern Market out of also Denver, it merged with Lemonade, and then they acquired Qdoba, which once upon a time was also based in Denver, as I recall. So there's some sort of weird Denver energy going on. We're going to have to title this episode All to Do About Denver. But then, you have all these other things. WowWorks is another one that comes to mind, which, has SaladWorks and started acquiring some other fast casual concepts, Garbanzo and a few others. So, there's good reason for this, which is, of course, the power of the collective resources. That if you have multiple concepts with multiple strengths, and you bring in the teams of all of these concepts, and you kind of bring it all under one roof, you can operate much more at scale than you could with any individual one brand. And so I think that's the strategy that a lot of these groups are probably thinking about as they acquire companies. And now as you mentioned, there's been a lot of acquisitions recently. I think now just seems to be a pretty good time, a good season for mergers and acquisitions, for probably reasons that are above my head and your head too, that something to do with the economy. I don't know. And so this just sort of falls in line with that. Now, one thing is interesting. We spoke with Darden Kors, CEO of Salad Collective at Create in Denver, and heard a little bit more about this acquisition, which they're very excited for. In this case, Tokyo Joe's another Denver-based brand coming into a Denver-based portfolio. But I think it's kind of funny because it's not a salad concept, and their portfolio company is called Salad Collective. So I don't know if they're going to have to put salads on the menu just to justify that. But yeah, it's an exciting fast casual Asian concept, Tokyo Joe's is. And so it gives them some diversity of menu. And I'll be interested to see if they have other acquisitions in their future.
I mean, I'm really excited to see them grow more. I'm just excited to see if they expand beyond salads like they did like this. And I wonder if they're going to change their name. I mean, like WowWorks changed its name to WowWorks from, I forget what they were before.
I don't think they had. I think it started with SaladWorks, and then they started acquiring other fast casuals like Garbanzo and oh darn, I'm going to forget all the other ones. But and I think once they started adding them to the portfolio, they changed their name. One other thing I'll throw out there too, and it's relevant to what we were talking about with Create, and we can get into a little bit more. The opportunity in fast casual Asian is huge. There's so much white space available for that market. And I say it's related to Create because we had a couple operators join us in Denver, Hanson Lee of Lazy Susan out of San Francisco, and Yong Zhao out of New York, the CEO of Junzi, and some other concepts that they're doing there. And both of them have identified that opportunity in the Chinese food market in particular to capitalize on the fact that there's nobody competes with Panda, right? Panda is like in a category of its own practically, with a handful of concepts that are around as well, including Tokyo Joe. So anyway, all to say that probably makes that concept pretty attractive and has good potential for growth in the future.
Yeah, we're actually going to be listening to a bunch of fast casual operators talking to each other on today's episode of the podcast. So you're going to hear a bunch of operators from Create who have all fast casual concepts talk to each other. So that's going to be really exciting. We did these kind of panels at Create for our podcast this year where we kind of got a group of people together and we had them all talk to each other. And I just kind of facilitated, or Sam facilitated. So it's really more a conversation between operators than it is a conversation between us and an operator, which makes it really interesting, I think, because we got to hear all of these things that were nitty gritty, that kind of got into the weeds of things that I think are going to be really interesting for you, the audience, that we may not always get into on the podcast. We may get into more high level stuff. And this is really like important things that you need to know in a day-to-day business that you may not have wanted to ask a competitor or somebody else in the business, but they all were free to ask it to each other. And we have it on record, and we're here to provide it to you.
Yeah, the theory we went in to Create with for our podcast there was just, the fact that conversations among restaurant operators can be valuable. I mean, let's face it, Holly, you and I have never run restaurant companies. That's, the unfortunate truth that we do know quite a bit about restaurants in our position, but we have never run them. And so our our task is, of course, to share that information we hear from others. But when you have an opportunity like we did in Denver to put people together and just have those conversations with each other, it's a unique opportunity. And so, yeah, we'll be sharing some of those conversations, create conversations, and I think you'll find a lot of value out of them for sure.
I definitely think they're going to provide a lot of value, maybe even more value than we usually give you. So I think that it's going to be something that's really fun and something we're going to want to do more often. So if you have ideas for us or ideas for the podcast, please send them to me or Sam. Our email addresses are very easy to find. Lan's not on the podcast today, so we have only the easy email addresses to find today.
Truth.
So email us if you have ideas for the podcast. We are so open to anything. We love hearing from you guys, and we love to make the podcast better. We may have won one award, but we are open to winning more. So if you want to make the podcast better, we're here.
Yeah, I guess I would consider it. Sure. Yeah, I'm open to winning more. Twist my arm, give me awards. Sure.
All right, so let's talk about Taco Bell's new menu item. I ordered from Taco Bell today because I talked with Joanna for First Bite, which will be out tomorrow morning. So after this, before this airs. But I talked with Joanna about Taco Bell's new menu item, their Beyond Steak, which is really interesting because Beyond Steak has never existed before. This is the first time that Beyond Steak is going to exist in the market for this LTO. I'm a Beyond Meat user as well. So I am a Taco Bell and a Beyond Meat person, but I'm also not a Dayton, Ohio liver. So I cannot experience this. But Sam, are you close to it? Yeah.
I, on the other hand, about an hour and a half. I could swing out to Dayton. Yeah, why not?
October 13th or 15th, one of those two dates.
Starting October 13th. Yeah, Dayton.
13th,
that's fun.
Yeah.
I always find it so fascinating when you see some of these markets that they pick for LTOs. Because Columbus, of course, where I am, has been called the test market capital of the U.S. because it's like the cross-section of all the American demographics. But Dayton, which is a lovely city, nothing against Dayton, but you just have to wonder sometimes, Dayton. Interesting. Like what they pick Dayton for. Like how do you pick a market to test the thing in, Now, usually they pick like 4 quadrants, right? Like usually they pick some random city in the Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, Pacific Northwest, something like that. But like when you pick one single market, you throw in a dart at a dartboard and lands on Dayton, Ohio. You're like, yeah, sure. Let's see how it goes there. I don't know, but fine city, Dayton, Ohio, fine city. So congrats to the residents of Dayton for being able to try this product, which I guess we could talk about that instead of Dayton itself. Because everybody here is, frankly, probably doesn't care. So, I mean, yes, of course, what's unique about this is the first Beyond Steak product in all of restaurants, right? Is it all of restaurants? This is the first time this product has been out there.
Yep.
So the plant-based movement, the success of the plant-based movement was always going to be predicated on how much it could expand into more than just beef and more than just burger patty alternatives. And so we've already seen the plant-based movement move into chicken. And of course, when I say beef, I mean burger patties. Because
and beef crumbles.
And ground beef, right. Because steak is beef. I just don't want people to think I'm not that. I cover the restaurant industry. I can't figure out that steak and beef come from the same animal. Anyway, yeah. But point being is that, like, in order for plant-based foods to really take off, it has to be completely comprehensive so that, chicken, beef, pork, fish, I know all of these products are really in development here. So this will go a long way toward determining whether there is continued interest in plant-based for things beyond burger patties and some of the other foods that have been out there so far.
I'm really excited to see what it's like. I mean, I can't even imagine what a steak product could be that they could get the texture right. I mean, I think that's something. I think beef is an easy texture to get right in a faux form. I don't know how to get steak in a faux form. I'm very curious to see. I mean, I think is it Meaty, the one that Chipotle invested in?
Oh yeah.
That I think they have something that's really similar that is a steak option. I mean, it looks super real in the photos. I mean, I haven't eaten it, but the photos make it look like a piece of steak, like with blood and everything. So I'm not really sure how this is going to be or how you can cook it or anything like that. But if it ever comes into food stores, I will certainly be trying it and buying it and eating it, because I am a huge Beyond Meat customer. I'm not a vegetarian, but I am a big Beyond Meat customer. I just love their stuff.
You know, one thing you won't be eating anytime soon? Noses, as opposed to the Beyond Meat COO. I had to get that in there. It was just too funny not to address that. On the day this big news comes out, the Beyond Meat COO is arrested for biting somebody's nose in a
not
road
eating
rage.
it, just biting it.
Just biting it, yeah. We're not talking like bath salt level crazies, but still very unfortunate timing, because this should be a very successful time for a Beyond Meat headline. And unfortunately, I bet you if you Google Beyond Meat right now, you're not getting Taco Bell that's coming up first.
I know, and it should really be, because it's exciting. But yeah, that's kind of a scary story. I mean, that was like a yikes.
Yeah, don't anger the COO of Beyond Meat, or perhaps soon to be former. I don't know, but look, yeah, we've been talking about plant-based a lot recently, and for good reason. It continues to move along. The innovation continues to move along and be worth watching, and the developments there, I think, are exciting and maturing that category. But you're right, that texture, the appearance, all the things, they have to be spot on. And I think plant-based is going to have to continue iterating until there is no difference between the real deal and the alternative.
I will say the beef crumbles are very spot on.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is pretty close. Absolutely. But some of it's going to be harder to imitate. And you're right that steak will be a hard one for sure to imitate.
Steak's going to be very hard. I mean, I'm really anxious to see what it's like. I'm so curious, but steak's going to be a really hard one to imitate. I think, well, we were talking about this after the NRA show. We thought seafood would be really hard to imitate. But I had the most delicious crab cake at the NRA show that was all faux. And it had like the same texture, the same everything. And I was shocked. So maybe they're more advanced than we think they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think the technology, as it were, or the resources available, the knowledge, the industry has advanced to this point where it's getting very, very close. And yeah, I think that's a good sign for the success of the plant-based category going forward.
All right, well, now it's time for happy news. Happy news. Happy news, happy news, happy news. Yay!
Well and we got a yay at the end. Wow, that was new. Yes. Happy news. Shall we talk Create?
Yeah, let's talk Create.
All right. So, we've talked about it a little bit before, but we were in Denver for 3 days for Create, which is our live experience bringing food service operators, experts, professionals together to have a non-conference conference, right? We really try to shake up the conference model to do things a little bit differently, a lot more fast-paced, a lot more choose your own adventure, a lot more of the festival vibe that we try to go for. And we had a blast. We had a really successful event. My key takeaways were that I think culture is a big thing right now that everybody's talking about. We had a pretty fantastic panel on culture on the first day of Create. We spoke with Idra Stover of Shake Shack, Dave Benighausen of Noodles and Company, and Hal Lawler of Smoky Bones, talking about how they develop culture in their companies. And it was just a really fantastic conversation. But I think the key point about culture is, culture, and we got to this on the panel, there's a lot of definitions for culture, but the most important thing about it is that no matter if you're a small company or a big company, culture is important to you. And it might mean something different to you, but the end result of culture is going to be the same across most companies, which should be retention of your employees, an easier job recruiting, happier employees. So that was a subject that just felt like it kept coming up from a lot of people, from operators big and small. Lots of chatter on technology. I really enjoyed Otto Othman of Pincho, spoke on his tech stack at Pincho, and I just loved how there were several dozens of emerging operators in the room to hear him, and all of them started asking him, to walk through his tech stack, and he was like, "Sure, yeah, happy to do it." All of you in the restaurant industry hopefully know by now, this is a collegial industry. People like to help each other, and so that was what was going on. Everybody was, everyone gives each other their blueprint, their cheat sheet, because even if you're a competitor, you don't really see each other as competition. At the end of the day, rising tide lifts all boats, and that was really the vibe, I think, of Create this year.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just such a cool environment. I mean, even after hours, you saw people getting to know each other, really getting to experience what it was like to be in a room with all these operators and just sharing information. I mean, I was hearing conversations literally from 9 a.m. until like midnight about restaurant industry and what it's like, and sharing experiences. And like people were at bars talking about what their tech stack was doing and what their operations were and how to get a 4-day work week to work out. And I feel like you never really experience that, where someone can be talking from that long. I mean, it's more than 12 hours of just discussing what it's like to be in the restaurant industry and what it's like to be a professional, and just getting all this knowledge. And it was so much fun to be in that space. It was so energetic. It was alive, and it just felt so, so good.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of restaurant nerds there, which is a good thing. But yeah, I mean, look, the community of restaurateurs is, I think that's what we're trying to build at Create, is a community. I know that word can be overused, but truly, in the truest sense of that term, community, people just coming together, getting to know each other, sharing, their ideas and opinions and what's worked and what's not worked. That was what was happening. And so my advice to everybody listening, of course, is to next year come join us at Create. We announced that we're going to be in Palm Springs next year for Create, Palm Springs, California, at the Margaritaville Hotel. We're going to have a blast. And so that will be in October of 2023. Join us there. You won't regret it. I'm sure, we'll start talking to you about it here in a few months, of course. But my other advice is just get out of your bubble, like even if it's just reaching out to folks in your own community and just saying, hey, like you're a restaurant operator, I'm a restaurant operator, let's just meet. It's so valuable. If you haven't done that yet, you have got to tap into a community of operators, because you will just be so energized and motivated, inspired. And that's what we see a lot, which is really cool. I think it's the best part of this job, is we get to be a part of a lot of that. But it doesn't have to include us. Just do it in your own neighborhood. But if it does have to include us, we are going to be going into cities across the country here in the coming year, doing some localized events, including Washington, D.C. on October 17th. More information to come, but if you're in Washington, D.C., we will be in your neck of the woods on October 17th, hosting a little reception and do some community building there. We're also going to be going out across the U.S. next year doing some more of these, and I think that's really exciting because, again, just bringing people together into this community is really important. But yes, if it doesn't need to be us. If you are out there in Omaha, Nebraska, met a couple of guys from Omaha this week who I really liked a lot, and they talked about how great Omaha, Nebraska scene is. I've never been there, but apparently sounds like an awesome restaurant scene. If you're in Omaha and you want to meet your neighbors, well, doggone it, just go invite them for a cup of coffee and get to know your fellow restaurant peers, because you'll be happy you did it. Just invite them up. This is a happy industry, a collegial industry. They'll do it. They'll go out with you.
It's just full of nice people. Some of the nicest around.
It is. Yeah.
And I like to steal all of Sam's friends, so he loves that about me.
Nope, never sharing my friends with you ever again.
Well, we also went to a bunch of Denver restaurants for our series that we do, where we go around to cities across the country and sample food, and we give you emerging restaurants to look out for in those cities. And so we went to a few restaurants, and that was what we were talking about Boo Boo earlier. But we went around and we filmed that, and we had a great time. We ate so much food. like a disgusting amount of food, but it was delicious. Every bite was delicious.
You just said disgusting and delicious in the same sentence, but yes, it was a disgusting amount of food, a disgusting amount of delicious food. But yes, and we won't tell you any other concepts. You got to watch the video to know what other ones we went to, but Boo Boo was one of them. So check out that video sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
And see which restaurants you should go check out in Denver. There's a ton of them. We didn't get to all of them. Admittedly, that'll have to be Denver Part 2 next time we go to Denver.
Yeah, or Denver Part 3 or Denver Part 4. You never know.
Yeah.
Palm Springs Part 1, maybe.
Sure, of course. This is what we do.
This is what we do. We go around to cities and we sample the food. It's a hard job, but we do it.
Somebody's got to. Has to be done.
Somebody's got to do the job, and unfortunately, it's us.
Unfortunately.
We love our jobs, actually.
Yes, we do.
We love them a lot. Otherwise, we would not be here. So we are very happy to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I'm going to throw it over to an episode of our Create podcast.